First of all, with some numbers, the National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. Crisis text line is 741-741. And the website for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is www.afsp.org. If you are thinking in terms of harming yourself, or you know someone who is thinking in terms of harming themselves, get to the nearest emergency room, get to a medical doctor or a mental health expert. Today we want to consider, how should I respond to the traumatized and the grieving? I'm coming from a Christian perspective. What to do when a family member, a friend, or a neighbor goes through something traumatic and or grief. It is my desire to speak with clarity and to speak briefly concerning this matter. I am not a professional counselor. These suggestions have come through almost 40 years in gospel ministry. Please take them and consider them, revise them, add to them, or subtract from them. They are simply my thoughts. I believe this first suggestion is perhaps the most important and should be acted upon quickly. Be present. Be there. Yes, be present with someone who is experiencing trauma or grief. This will do more than you could ever imagine. They are in shock, overwhelmed, and perhaps even numb to feelings and or conversation. You will no doubt feel inadequate and at a loss for words. Well, it's not necessary to say anything more than, "I'm sorry." This might surprise you coming from a pastor, but please, no sermons or Bible verses. They are probably not going to remember them, and you will come across as all-knowing and simplifying their pain. I still cringe over some of the things that I've heard through the years that have been said to the hurting and the grieving. My second suggestion is, there are no time limits on grief and healing. The truth is, things will never be completely fixed in this lifetime. The healing and wholeness that we long for will be in the presence of Jesus. The thought or words of, "they should be over it by now," are usually spoken by those who've never experienced these things. A final suggestion comes into play in the days ahead. Do not avoid those who are going through crisis and grief. They will only feel more isolated if you do so. The words, "I am thinking about you and praying for you," really do go a long way. My wife and I both affirm that when someone mentions our son's name or tells us about a memory they have of him, that it does help. It will often bring teary eyes, but those tears are a bit different from those in former days. And I offer a brief thank you to those of you who have mentioned his name. I am very aware that this post does not deal with a number of considerations. My hope was to be brief and bring perhaps something that might be a help as you cross paths with the traumatized and grieving. Matthew chapter 10, verse 8 says, "Freely you have received, freely give." A fellow traveler, Wayne Whiteside.